Leviticus 14. The Lord gave these further instructions to Moses. These are the instructions for the cleansing ceremony for people who have recovered from serious skin diseases. When they are brought to the priest, he will go outside the camp to examine them. If the priest finds that the diseased area has healed, he will order that 2 live birds, a piece of cedar wood, a scarlet thread, and a hyssop branch be brought for the person to be purified. The priest will then order one of the birds to be slaughtered over a clay pot filled with fresh water. He will take the live bird, the cedar wood, the scarlet thread, and the hyssop branch, and dip them all in the blood of the bird that was slaughtered over the fresh water. Then he will sprinkle the person being purified 7 times with the blood, and the person will be pronounced clean. Finally, the priest will release the live bird in the open fields. The person being purified must then wash his clothes, shave off all his hair, and bathe in water. Only then will he be allowed to enter the camp, but he must remain outside his tent for 7 days. On the 7th day, he must again shave off all his hair, including his beard and eyebrows. He must wash his clothes and bathe in water, and then he will be completely clean. On the 8th day, he must bring 2 male lambs and 1 female lamb a year old, all without defect, along with a grain offering of 6 quarts of choice flour mixed with olive oil and 1/3 of a pint of olive oil. The priest will then take the person being purified and these offerings to the entrance of the tabernacle and present them before the Lord. The priest will take one of the male lambs and offer it as a guilt offering, along with the olive oil. He will present them to the Lord by lifting them up as a special offering. Then the priest will slaughter the lamb in the sacred area where the sin offerings and burnt offerings are slaughtered. This guilt offering is as holy as the sin offering. The priest will take some of the blood from the guilt offering and put it on the tip of the right ear, the thumb of the right hand, and the big toe of the right foot of the person being purified. The priest will then pour some of the olive oil into the palm of his own left hand, dip his right finger into the oil, and sprinkle some of it before the Lord 7 times. He will put some of the oil on the same places on the person's body where he put the blood: on the tip of the right ear, the thumb of the right hand, and the big toe of the right foot. The rest of the oil in his palm will be poured on the person's head. In this way, the priest will purify the person before the Lord. Then the priest must offer the sin offering to purify the person. After that, he will slaughter the burnt offering and present it on the altar along with a grain offering. In this way, the priest will purify the person and he will be completely clean. However, if the person is poor and cannot afford these offerings, he may bring 1 male lamb as a guilt offering to be lifted up as a special offering, along with 2 quarts of choice flour, mixed with olive oil for a grain offering, and 1/3 of a pint of olive oil. He must also bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, depending on what he can afford, one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. On the 8th day, he must bring them to the priest at the entrance of the tabernacle and present them before the Lord. The priest will take the lamb for the guilt offering and the olive oil and lift them up as a special offering before the Lord. Then he will slaughter the lamb for the guilt offering, and the priest will take some of its blood and put it on the tip of the right ear, the thumb of the right hand, and the big toe of the right foot of the person being purified. The priest will then pour some of the olive oil into the palm of his own left hand, dip his right finger into the oil, and sprinkle some of it before the Lord 7 times. He will put some of the oil on the same places on the person's body where he put the blood, on the tip of the right ear, the thumb of the right hand, and the big toe of the right foot. The rest of the oil in his palm will be poured on the person's head. In this way, the priest will purify the person before the Lord. Then the priest must offer one of the turtle doves or young pigeons as a sin offering, depending on what the person can afford. The other bird must be offered as a burnt offering, along with a grain offering. In this way, the priest will purify the person before the Lord, and he will be completely clean. These are the instructions for the cleansing ceremony for anyone who has recovered from a serious skin disease, but cannot afford the regular offerings. When you arrive in the land of Canaan, that I am giving you as a possession, the Lord may contaminate houses in your land with mildew. The owner of the house must go to the priest and say, "It appears that my house has been contaminated with mildew." The priest will inspect the house, and if he finds mildew on the walls, he will order everyone to leave the house before he shuts it up for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest will return to inspect the house again. If the mildew has spread on the walls, he will order that the contaminated stones be torn out and thrown into an unclean place outside the town. Then he will have the interior walls of the house scraped thoroughly, and the scrapings must be dumped in an unclean place outside the town. New stones must be brought to replace the ones that were removed, and the interior walls must be replastered. If the mildew reappears after the stones have been removed, and the house has been scraped and replastered, the priest must go and inspect it again. If the mildew has spread, it is a destructive mildew, and the house is unclean. It must be torn down, and all its stones, timbers, and plaster must be carried to an unclean place outside the town. To purify a house from mildew, the priest will take 2 birds, a piece of cedar wood, a scarlet thread, and a hyssop branch. He will slaughter one of the birds over a clay pot filled with fresh water. Then he will take the cedar wood, the hyssop branch, the scarlet thread, and the live bird, and dip them all in the blood of the bird that was slaughtered over the fresh water. Next, he will sprinkle the house 7 times with the blood. He will purify the house in this way with the bird's blood, the fresh water, the live bird, the cedar wood, the hyssop branch, and the scarlet thread. Finally, he will release the live bird in the open fields outside the town. In this way, he will purify the house and it will be clean. These are the instructions for dealing with serious skin diseases, scabs, mildew in clothing or in a house, and sores that develop on the skin. These instructions must be followed to determine when something is unclean and when it is clean.